man again. You was black, and they didn't want that black image over the kids. You was a hero.
Well, see, but
your kids was looking up to you, and they didn't want their kids looking up at
What kids?
They didn't want the white kids looking up at this big old greasy black guy out of Georgia, out of Mississippi, or out of Chicago. They want their kids to see a little smooth white boy looking pretty and on duty and looking.
Boy, he was something else, wasn't he? Oh man, a legend, an icon. Let's just say thank you. Thank you to Mr. Little Richard. Well, as you can see, as you know, we are doing a tribute today here on the Extraordinary Drummer Show. By the way, welcome to the Extraordinary Drummer Show. But we're doing a tribute today to Mr. Little Richard, and with it being a drummer show, so we have compiled and gotten together a lot of the drummers that have played for him. And I've had some great conversations, as you'll see in a second, some great Zoom interviews with some of the guys. Give you an idea of some of the guys that's on the show. We went back and we was able to get a hold of his original drummer, a gentleman I spoke with on Zoom by the name of Charles Connor. Oh, that was great. Told me how he came up with the beats for that boogie stuff. It wasn't rock and roll. It was more like, you know, that Little Richard, that shuffle boogie thing. Got a chance to talk to him. Some of the drummers you're gonna meet, Derek Demar Martin is on the show. Mark Harlan is on the show. Robin Russell, you remember him from New Birth. He played with him. My main man, Alvino Bennett, is on the show. Got a chance to talk to him. And just so many other great drummers that have played with him. So, let's get started. This first guy up, of course, as I mentioned, was Little Richard's first drummer. His name is Charles Connor. Check him out. I'm speaking today with Charles Connor, the original drummer for Little Richard. Hello, sir.
Hi, how are you?
Wow, I'm well. I'm floored. And how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
How did you meet Little Richard? How did you get the gig with him?
Well, it's kind of a long story. I try to make it short. I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana. I was in Nashville, Tennessee, playing at a club called New Orleans, and Little Richard was playing at a club called the New Era on 4th Street in Nashville, Tennessee. And so what happened, he sent his guitar player and said, tell the drummer I want him to come to the YMCA tomorrow. I want to talk to him. And I said, well, you want to talk to me about what? Me and another saxophone player. And we went to the YMCA in Nashville, Tennessee. And what happened was he said that I went to Nashville, Tennessee, and went to his room and everything at the YMCA. And he said, hi, how you doing? I said, I'm doing okay, Mr. Little Richard. And he said, oh yeah, you don't have to call me Mr. Little Richard, call me Richard. He said, I was thinking about forming a band called the Upsetters. And if I could take you guys back to Macon, Georgia with me, and I will, because I want my own band, my own style. Because he was singing the blues done like B.B. King and Ray Charles and all of that. He said, what kind of beat you were playing with me when I heard you playing with Shirley and Lee? What kind of beat you were playing? I said, oh, I had, you see, those days for the travel, you have to have a bass player. It was hard to get a bass player because, there was upright bass on the top of a stationway and everything. That was damn rich, and there were very few bass players. So what I did, he said that, okay, the tram went off, choo, 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 choo. He said, that's the kind of beat he was playing. He said, Charles, what kind of beats are those? I said, Richard, those are 8 notes. He said, well, that's what I want to play behind me when we had rehearsal the next day. And that's where the choo-choo train, I created a choo-choo train beat, and a lot of drummers wondering, they don't know where it originated from. Originated on 5th Street, listen to the train. He told me that, Charles, thanks for creating the rock and roll, my style of playing the rock and roll beat. And Richard used to say he was the architect. I say, yeah, and I was the bricklayer. So that's how all that stuff came about.
Well, let me say again, thank you. This is the Extraordinary Drummer Show. I'm Cheron Moore, your host. My guest today is legend, icon. Without him, and I used to be a drummer as well, I should tell you, but without this gentleman right here, I really don't think that the drumming community, the drummer marketplace would be the way it is. My guest today was Mr. Charles Connor. And I want to ask if you would say bye to the audience and if you give them a wave for me there, Charles.
Okay, my man. Thank you so much. Very kind. I wish you luck on your show and everything like that. I wish you get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. You deserve it because you're taking interest in other drummers and show drummers with how all this stuff started.
Thank you again, sir. I'll talk to you soon. God bless.
Take care. God bless.
Bye-bye. Okay, this next guy I want to introduce you to, I almost want to say he was his second drummer because he was with him. I have here. He started in 1986, and over some 27 years with him. This next drummer, say hello if you will to Mark Holland. Mark Holland, here on Extraordinary Drummers.
Hello, my name is Mark Holland. I played drums for Little Richard for the past 27 years on and off. I met Little Richard in 1986. I'm originally from Dayton, Ohio. I embarked on coming to Los Angeles, me, Thomas Black, David Blakely, and a young guy named John. I forget John's last name, but we decided to come to LA. And Thomas was, before he left, he said he had been out here before in LA, so he had met Little Richard. He was out with another band, and he was like, when we get to LA, we can go check out Little Richard. And I was like, okay, cool. And then the next morning we got up and we headed to Hollywood. And we stopped at the mobile gas station on Sunset La Brea because Little Richard was staying at the Hyatt, the Riot Hyatt on Sunset. And my friend Thomas used the payphone and called the hotel and got a hold to him. And I told him, he was in town. He wanted to stop by and say hello. So we waited. Richard said he was coming. He was leaving the hotel. So he said, just wait there, wait at the gas station. So we waited for about 2 hours. And I was looking at Thomas and I was like, man, you really know Little Richard, man? Because we've been out here for a long time. And he was like, no, he's going to come, Finally, this white limousine pulls up and, he had the window rolled down, smiling, being himself as usual. And they were releasing Down Beverly Hills, and he had this song in it, Great Gosh Almighty, that Billy Preston played on. And he had a couple of guys, bass player Charles Glenn, who's been with Richard longer than me. And we played together all the way to the end. And Robert Palmer, who's on guitar, they both played on Great Gosh Almighty. And one day he said, hey, they came by and he introduced me to them. And the next day he was like, hey, you want to be in my band? I was like, yeah, this is probably about 5 months into it. I'd been working for him for about 5 months. But when he asked me, I was thinking, wow, yeah, this is what I came out here to do, But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, man, am I ready for this? Like, cause this is it. I only got one shot. I came out here to do this, and if I mess this up, man. And then the next thing you know, we was on TV. My first gig, we did the Jerry Lewis Telethon, the March of Dimes Telethon, which ended up being a track day. But it was nerve-wracking, even though it was track day. I had to learn the part, so I learned the parts so I could play along with the track. And that was the first gig. And then probably the first 2 years, we just did television show from television show. And we were coming out of one of these studios, and there was a barricade with people waiting. They knew he was in the studio. And as soon as we came out, they broke through the barrier. Like, it was like the Beatles, like mayhem. And we had to run and get into the limousine.
17, and you know what I mean, and the way she look, way beyond the past. I never danced with another, with a song, but now come me grind, feel the gumbo, cause tonight I'm on the scene, I'm sharing me up. Chick, chick, fine, and be kind, and be gay, oh. Son of a gun, we're gonna have a lot of fun on the bayou.
And so it's definitely been a privilege to be a part of all that.
You enjoying yourself? You having a good time? Are these guys awesome or what? One of the things about Little Richard that I love is that he was himself. He was himself. Through it all, he was himself. He didn't let anyone change him. He never conformed to anything. And that's why we can call him the originator. These days, there's so much marketing and so much things. You hit fads and trends. He was the trend. Wow, just simply awesome, huh? What can you say? We're talking about someone who opened the doors for people like myself. I could have never had a drum career. I don't think so, without people like Charles Connor and of course the icon Little Richard. So I'm grateful. Thank you so very much. This next drummer, yeah, I enjoyed talking to him on the phone. He's so patient and worked with me to get the footage, worked with me to just any questions that I may have. I learned that he played with Little Richard for over 17 years. You're gonna love this one. Say hello, if you will, to Derek DeMar Martin, right here on Extraordinary Drummer.
Hey, this is Derek DeMar Martin, tuning in to talk to you guys today, man. First of all, I want to say thanks for having me. I want to talk to you guys about the legendary Little Richard. We just lost him, huge loss. I had the privilege of holding the drum chair for him for 17 years, and it was an immense pleasure, tons of lessons. So I tell you, let's talk about how I first came to join Little Richard's band. I joined the band when I was 23 years old. Yeah, young cat. This lady, Linda Jacobs, was a local promoter, worked with this big festival called Jubilee Jam, and they had booked Little Richard some years prior to 95, and she became friends with him. And one of their conversations is, Richard said that he was looking for a young black drummer to augment his show, to go back to what he had years before when he had two drummers. So, Linda's working with us. And at the time I was producing a rap group, Wildlife Society, with TBT Records in New York. So we had all this stuff going on. She calls up and says, hey, call this phone number. Little Richard is looking for a drummer. I'm like, okay, cool. I call the number thinking I'd be talking to a manager or a representative or something. But, lo and behold, to me, Little Richard answers the phone. And he's like, oh, hey, baby. I'm Little Richard, and I want to know if you can play my music. Do you have my specialty greatest hits? Yeah, at the time, I'm like, well, no, sir, I don't. But there's a record store nearby. He's like, go pick that up and then call me back. So I go to the store, I pick up the music, listen to it. It's all the hits. Long Tall Sally, Ready Teddy, Lucille, Good Golly Miss Molly, the hits. So I check it out. Like, yeah, I can dig this. So I call him back and I was like, yes, sir, I can play this music. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll tell you what, I'm going to call you back this afternoon. So later that day, he calls me back, books, and tell me I have a ticket that I'm leaving on that Thursday. This was like a Monday or Tuesday. So he says that I'm leaving on Thursday to fly to LA. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is cool. And then finally, Richard was like, oh, okay, baby, this has been fun, but I'm hungry. Let's go get something to eat. And he said, oh, baby, that's great. We open for the Temptations next week in Cerrito. That's going to be great. And I was like, hey, man, what just happened? And Charles walks over, hey, man, welcome to the band. And I'm dumbfounded. I'm like, wait, but what just happened? Wait a minute. And he's, I was like, well, Richard, we didn't play any of your music, man. Like, we didn't go through any of your songs. I said, oh, no, baby, it's fine. You got a good foot, a good backbeat, and you love your mama. I have to teach you the rest anyway. And just like that, I was in the band playing the gig with Richard. Because one of the things I get all the time is when I'm playing with people talk about my focus and my attention to detail or whatever. And that's, I learned that from the Chitlin circuit in Mississippi from just playing with, old blues artists or whatever. But Richard really, really was a bigger teacher in that, because I had to watch him, just relentlessly. I could never not be focused on him, because there were cues that he would give, when he's looking at you. Or one thing that I grew to learn was like when he's playing piano. So if he's doing, like if he starts doing quarter notes, bum, dun, 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 that means the groove is too fast. But if he's doing dun, 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 1 and 2 and 3, eighth notes, and he can get up and do his, triplets, da 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 da. That means it's perfect. It's right where he wants it. He's kind of grooving. And the thing that's weird about that is that it was always different every night. Like the tempos were kind of relative. Where he felt it one night was definitely not where he felt it another night. And I had to always be tuned into where he was. Like he may start Good Golly Miss Molly. Boo dee dee, boo dee dee, boo doo bee, doo dee doo dee. So that's right here, right? But he doesn't want the song to be that laid back. He'll go doo doo dee, good golly. So I have to kind of push him forward. And if it's too much, he would always, then he'd do this. He kind of lean back, kind of look at me and do this. Okay, lay it back. But if it wasn't up, he'd look at you and move forward like this, like, come on, man, push me. So these are all like non-verbal cues that I had to learn. And it was thing like no one else really, I don't think anybody else really paid attention. And particularly from where I was on the drum kit, I'm right behind, like I'm really lined up so I can see his hands, his body and everything, his feet. So everything to me was a nonverbal cue. And it was a situation where I understood that when I played the gig, like everything was my responsibility. Now, but no one ever told me that this was how we're doing it. So we're playing this gig once. It's like 30,000 people. This was the night before, I think either the night or two before we were supposed to play at the American Music Awards for his Lifetime Achievement Award. So we're playing, and he kicks off Old Time Rock and Roll, and I'm playing the backbeat. And he stops. He's like, oh, no. Oh, boy, that's not right. This is not the right beat. Oh, man. Oh, you been drinking? Oh, boy, So he starts off again. And I'm grooving. I have no idea, like, what's going on. So he stops again. Oh, you know what? I think my drummer's been drinking, Oh, man. So he looks at me. Oh, boy, my music is important to me. I'll let you go, man. I'll let you go. So, of course, now I'm, like, freaking out. And he turns, he's like, you know what? You just don't play. Just don't play. So it's like in front of 30,000 people. It's like, what do I do? I'm freaked out. So I just go along with it. He counts off. I don't play. I'm clapping with the sticks, But the audience is just thinking, oh, this is just a part of the show. So during this time, Wayne is kind of signaling me with 2 and 4 on the foot. And then I get it. And I gradually come in. And so by the end of the song, midway the song, I'm grooving and it's what he wants. And he's like, oh, okay. Now you understand, And I'm like, how was I supposed to know this? After the gig, I'm scared to death. I'm, oh, Rich, man, I'm sorry. Da, 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 da. And he looks at me, oh, boy, it's okay. You just got to pay attention, So we get to sound check for the American Music Awards, and he's still kind of weird. Like he's got this thing. I think he sees it. Oh, this is one place I'm hung up, or it really freaked me out. So he starts this song in sound check, and looks at me. Like gives me this beam, like don't mess this up again. So he sets it up, and I'm playing the groove, and he's like, oh, okay, oh, now you understand. But it was like the weirdest thing. I'm like, how was I supposed to know this, man? But what I realized is that, hey, my job was to be there and do whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted, because the motto I developed was he might not always be right, but he's never wrong. Get it? So it's like I tell the band, like, hey, man, I know if we're here, but if he goes, I'm always going with him. And there'd be situations to where, and he would, there'd be times when he would, when I got more comfortable in the gig, where he would jump stuff. He would know that he kind of missed it, and he just kind of look at me and kind of give a nod, because I'm like, no, man, I got your back. I'm here. I understand that my position in this chair is to, basically be an extension of Little Richard. If Little Richard was playing drum, this is what he would want. So it's not necessarily what I think that matters. It's all about what he wants and that whole thing. So that was, another huge lesson gleaned from that, man. Can we give it to the drummer to give it to the drummer? Can we give it to the... Say what? Can we give it to the drummer to give it to the drummer? Can we give it to the funky drummer? White Mountain. Give it to the funky drummer. Right now.
Let's do another one. This next drummer, as I say, is a dear friend of mine, Alvino Bennett, here on Extraordinary Drummers. Hey, Alvino.
Hey, hey, man, how are you, Cheron?
Well, thank you. Thank you for being on the show.
Yes, thank you for having me.
How did you come about?
Yeah.
How did you come about working with Little Richard?
I was out on the road with Shaka, and I think it was between 86 and 87. And we were just about to take a little break, about a week or two. So I was coming back home, and I got a call from a friend of mine, great guitarist, and he's also a great songwriter, Robert Palmer. And he called me and says, hey, Vino, I need a drummer to do this television show with Little Richard. And I was like, what? Like, the Little Richard? I mean, really? And he says, yeah. I says, cool. I says, when I get back home, I'll let you know. And blah, blah. So I went over his house, and he played me the song that we were going to do. And I was like, oh, man, this is going to be like so cool. So it was through Robert that I got the call. And we did the show, and it was the Joan Rivers show. And I mean, that was hilarious within itself. You know, some of the stuff that was going on when the cameras weren't rolling. I mean, between Little Richard and her, and him doing things. We did a couple takes, and because Richard would do something to start playing off the cuff, and playing some of the old rock and roll from the 50s and 60s, and he was just hilarious. And his, one of his favorite sayings was like, "Shut up." It was really great, really great. Yeah. Yeah.
How did you find him to be as a person, being around him and stuff?
I didn't really talk to him a lot. It was just kind of like the hello, how you doing? Such a pleasure. And he was very cordial, very nice guy. And he didn't say anything about how he wanted something to be played, anything to me. He didn't say a word. And I tried to play as close as possible for the feel that was going on that particular day. It was kind of like a take off on what he had been doing back when he first came out in the 50s, But of course, we're talking about now, 20th century, 21st century. and how things are done now. That wasn't the 20th century, wasn't it? But back in that era, back in the 50s. So, yeah, he didn't say much at all. He didn't say, no, that doesn't feel right or this or that. No, he just, like, they count the song and we were gone. But I did keep in mind and in my heart that I want to try to stay as close as possible to that feel. I'm kind of a stickler for that, you know, sounds and textures and the such. But I didn't really have to, at that point, for that particular day, that song, didn't have to go through what I thought I would have to do. And I think I had spoken to you some time ago about how a lot of us musicians and especially drummers, people depend on drummers to make things feel a certain way. And back in that day, you know, a lot of guys were, you know, were jazz drummers. So the way that how they approach things was not how we approach things now and how we look back on that music. And because of how it was recorded, we didn't hear everything. We didn't hear what the kick drum was always doing. We didn't hear what the cymbal was always doing, because sometimes it would just be one microphone, you know? And so everybody had to deal with the one microphone, and they would move the microphone around to get things sonically right. I mean, my God, it felt so good, you know. And sometimes we try to replicate or do those things again today, but we have so many choices now. So so that's what I did. That's how that came out.
Thank you so much. Would you help me say bye to all the fans?
Thank you. Hey, bye everybody. Have a good one. Peace out. Be careful out there.
Thank you, Vino.
Thank you, Cheron. All right. Okay. Most definitely. Okay. Bye.
Bye now.
Huh? What do you think? Huh? Some great stories. Here's another guy. Here's Robin Russell here on Extraordinary Drummers. Well, there you have it. The drummers of Little Richard, drummers that have played with Little Richard. Wow, what history, what stories. And I gotta tell you, with it being not as a long a show, there's a lot of footage that I couldn't get up there on this show. But what I'm gonna do is I'm going to have each of these drummers back on the Extraordinary Drummer Show as an episode within themselves. So we get to hear the full story and I can show you some of that footage that I couldn't put up. Thank you so much for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Extraordinary Drummer Show. I hope you had a good time and keep drumming out there, okay? This is Cheron. Love you guys. Bye-bye.
Shut up.